Hey, shalom, shalom from your Dutch Uncle John, here to tell you what it is in maybe the second most famous verse in the Bible, or chapter, and it's Psalm 23. Everybody knows Psalm 23, the first verse, everybody repeats often. But that's what we're going to talk about today, Psalm 23. It starts out with the title, A Psalm of David. In Hebrew, it's Mizmor David. Mizmor comes from the verb zamar, which means to sing in praise of God. And in Hebrew, if you put a mem in front of a verb, it can turn it into a noun. So, zamar is to sing in praise of God. Put a mem in front. Mizmor is a melody. Okay, a melody for God. And then it says, Mazamar la David. The lamed is of, and then you have dalet, vav, dalet, which is David, David. I do want to point out one thing about David, and that is the dalet is 4, vav is 6. Dalet is 4. David's name adds up to 14. We've talked about that before, I'm sure, but that's not going to come into play in this video until we get to the bonus. Yes, there's going to be a bonus! And so, keep that in mind. Let's put in all the gematria for Mizmor la David. The mem is 40, Zayin 7, Vav is 6, Resh 200, Lamed 30, and as we said, the Dalet is 4 and the Vav is 6. It adds up to 337. There's our 3s and 7s. 337, by the way, forms a Mogen David, a Star of David. And let me tell you, this chapter is one of David's stars. Okay, let's go ahead and start. It begins, The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of His name. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for You are with me. Your rod and Your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. 6 verses. And we're going to look at them in the Hebrew and break down all the special stuff that God has hidden in here. So here it is in the Hebrew. And let's start with verse 1. Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want. Well, you know that first word, Yud Hey Vav Hey, starts out with a bang. Yahweh, the Lord. Okay? And remember, Yahweh is Yud Hey Vav Hey. The Yud is a hand. The Hey is a revelation, something to be revealed. A Vav is a nail. And then another Hey is another something to be revealed. So Yahweh's name, the hand reveals, the nail reveals. A direct reference to Yeshua HaMashiach. It's letting you know who this Lord Yahweh is. The hand reveals, the nail reveals. And we know that Yeshua, Jesus, is the Good Shepherd. John 10:11 in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. It said, Jesus said, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down His life for the sheep. In John 10:14, He says again, I am the Good Shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. So, just so you know, if we can say that the Good Shepherd Yeshua is the Lord, then we can say the Lord is my shepherd. Okay? So, the first word, Yahweh, Yeshua. The next word is Roi, my shepherd. And by the way, sheep need a shepherd. I don't know if you spend any time around sheep. I was in New Zealand years ago and went on a sheep muster. And let me just tell you, they are the dumbest animals, okay? And they don't kick, they don't bite, they don't claw. They are totally defenseless. You can put your finger in their mouth and they will not chomp down and bite it. Just amazing animal. But they need a shepherd. And that word for shepherd is Raha, is shepherd. It's a resh, ayin, hey. Well, we know resh is the head or the chief top man. Ayin is an eye. Hey is behold. Something is going to be revealed. So just in the pictographs of the word Ra, it's the head man's eye beholds. Well, that really defines what a shepherd is. And in Hebrew, if you put the yod on the end, remember yod is hand, the closed hand, my, it becomes roi, my shepherd. So now we have Yahweh roi, the Lord is my shepherd. The word for not or no is lo in Hebrew. Remember, ken is yes, lo is no, and it can also refer to not. And then exar is to lack. So I shall not lack, I shall not want. Okay, so Yahweh roi lo exar in Hebrew, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Verse 2, he makes me lie down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters. Actually, this gets mistranslated. It sounds very poetic when we read it in English. In the Hebrew, it's backwards. It says, well, it's not backwards, but it's different than what we're expecting. It actually says, in grass pastures he makes me lie down, and beside still waters he leads me. Yeah, it is. They're both kind of backwards. Let's look at some of these words here. That word for, the second word is grass, not green, desha. Okay, so in pastures of grass, he makes me lie down. Beside waters, the word for waters here, they're using just the mem yud. Remember, waters is usually mem yud mem, but the plural is mem yud. So beside waters still he leads me, or quiet waters, sometimes it reads. Verse 3, he restores my soul. That first word is nafshi. Okay, nafshi comes from nephesh, which is soul. Today's choice of shirts brought to you by South Korea. We see this word early, back in Genesis 2:7, and it said, and Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being or a living soul. There's that word nephesh. Okay, we have body, soul, and spirit. Here's soul. And this, if nephesh is soul, you put the yud on the end, yud, closed hand, my soul. Okay? So my soul he restores. He leads me in the paths. Okay, well there I got a problem with this one. Paths is not the word. The word in Hebrew here is magal. Magal is the Hebrew word for circle. So he leads me in the circles. Okay? And by the way, that's how life works. It's not just one continuous path and you get off the path and now you're lost and you have to get back on the path. No, life is like a circle. And whatever you encounter, you're going to encounter again and again. And you have opportunities on the next encounter to do it right because you screwed it up on the first round. Circle. Okay? So he leads me in the circles of righteousness. That word righteousness is Tzaddik. If you've seen the Tzadi video, Tzadi is the Hebrew letter that represents righteousness. Okay, it's Tzadi Dalet Kuf. And you'll hear this word a lot. The priest's name, King David said, call in Zadok the priest. Zadok, Zadik. Okay, a priest is a righteous person. Okay, Melchizedek, you'll hear Melchizedek. You'll hear that Zadok in there, righteousness. Melchizedek is my king is righteous. Okay. By the way, I wonder when they named Zadok, did they know he was going to be the priest? It's kind of, you know, that kind of sets your life thing there, right? They're going to name you Zadok. What else are you going to be? Okay, kind of nomen est omen. The name is a sign of what you're going to be. You name a kid Jeeves, he's probably going to be a butler. Okay, for the sake of Shemu, well, you know Shem is name, right? This was one of Noah's children, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And again, here, for the sake of his name, if you put a vav on the end of Shem, it becomes his. That's what the vav does on the end of a word, makes his, possessive. So he restores my soul, and he leads me in the circles of righteousness for the sake of his name. Verse 4, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Okay, the shadow of death. Here that word is tselmut. We can figure out this word very nicely. Watch. Tsel, where have we seen that before? Remember Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. So here we are made in the image and likeness of God. What is the difference between image and likeness? In English, nothing. But in Hebrew, it's Betsalmenu, Kidmatenu. The Enu part is our, and they both have our. Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. So the Enu is the our part. The first letter, Be, is in, and Ki is to. So, in our likeness, image, to our likeness. It's that little core word. The dam is, that root word is blood, dam. So we are made in the physical form of God. And the tsal, this word here, is shadow or the spirit. So we are in the spiritual image of God. And there is a spiritual and a physical part to everything. There's two parts going on this planet. There's a spiritual world and a physical world. Right? In the beginning, God created the heavens, spiritual, and the earth, the physical. Okay? Jesus tells Nicodemus in the book of John, chapter 3, you must be born again. And Nicodemus, what do you mean I have to go back into my mother's womb? No, that's the physical birth. You need to be born spiritually. Okay? There is a physical and spiritual aspects to our being. So, the tsel is shadow. Okay? Even though I walk through the shadow of death, he's using tsel here. Makes sense. And the next part of that, tselmut, mut is death. We've seen it over and over. Remember, the Hebrew word for truth is amet, aleph, mem, tav. And if you take aleph out of that, aleph is God, you're left with mem, tav, mut. Truth without God is death. Remember, in the first 10 genealogies, Numbers 8 is Methuselah. He's that guy who lived 969 years. Met is death, and then put a vav after it, Methu, that's his death, and then Selah is shall bring. His death shall bring. Why would you name your kid this? Watch my Noah video, and it explains that when Methuselah died, 7 days later, the flood, it started raining. Okay, so his death shall bring what? His death brought the flood. All right. You know, I had my Jewish friend. He met my nephew Matthew, who we call Matt, and so Reuben would say, "Hey Max, come here. Hey Max, do you want?" I said, "Reuben, his name is not Max. It's Matt. I'm not calling him Matt. Matt means death." He wasn't hearing it correctly because Matt is not moot, met, the vowels are different, but it sounded close enough to him that he did not want to call him Matt, so he called him Max. Interesting. So even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This one begins with lo. Lo is not. And then there's the word for I will fear. And then evil is ra. We saw that in Pharaoh's name. Remember Pharaoh in the Pei video, we probably talked about this. Pei, hey, the first and last letters spell Pei, mouth. And the center letters is Resh, Ayin, which is evil. So Pharaoh's name means from the mouth of evil. So I will not fear evil. Verse 4, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I've underlined for you are with me for a reason. You will see that in a bit. But let's continue. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. What's the difference between a rod and a staff? They kind of seem the same, but they're not. The word rod is shabet. And the word for staff is mishanah. So what's the difference between them? And by the way, that shabet, in this form it says shibeteka. It puts a final cough on the end of it. Well, remember cough, that's the 11th letter. Cough is an open palm. Okay? And whenever you put that cough on the end of a word, it makes it your. Remember, if you put a yud on the end, it's my. If you put a cough on the end, it's your. So, your rod, shebeteka, and they did it again with mishanateka, your staff. They put the open palm, final cough sofit, on the end of it. So, what is the difference between a rod and a staff? Well, a rod is used for correction, okay? And a staff is used for support. That's nice to know. He's not just beating the hell out of us, and it's not just 100% for support. It's a little of both. Thank you, God. We need both. Okay, so why did I underline this one section here? Well, let's look at the whole chapter for a second. Notice what I've underlined. Verse 2, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the circles of righteousness for the sake of His name. Lots of he's and his's. Okay? Then it's all of a sudden going to change. In verse 4, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff. Verse 5, you anoint my head with oil. All of a sudden, the pronouns have changed from he and his to you and your. And where did it make that change? Right there on, for you are with me. something changes there. And not only in the words, you're going to see some really cool stuff that makes this a good dividing point for the chapter. So here we have everything above that line is he and his. Everything below that is you and your. And the you and your and the he and his that we're talking about, of course, is Yahweh. Yud, He, Vav, He, Yahweh. And the gematria for Yahweh, Yud is 10, He 5, Vav 6, He 5. Yahweh adds up to 26. Well, what's kind of clever is, above this line, for you are with me, there are 26 words above. And then there are 26 words below. And notice there, the word Yahweh appears twice. It appears at the beginning in the first 26 words, and it appears at the end, the last verse, in the bottom 26 words. And in that underlined center is, for you are with me. Very nice. Verse 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint with oil my head. My cup overflows. That word head, you should know, is Rosh. And here it's going to be Roshi, my head. He puts a yud on the end, closed fist, my. Verse 6. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever. Goodness and mercy is Tov v'chesed. Tov, you've heard in Genesis chapter 1, you heard it 7 times on Creator Week. And chesed is loving kindness, mercy. And the vav is and, between the two. Tov v'chesed. Then it says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me. This word to follow, that there is translated to follow, is radaf. And radaf in Hebrew means to pursue or chase or persecute. It's not goodness and mercy is just going to be tagging along like a little puppy behind me. No, it's pursuing and chasing us. We see it, look in Proverbs 21:21. One who pursues righteousness and loyalty finds life, righteousness and honor. Psalm 143:3. For the enemy has persecuted, radaf, my soul. He has crushed my life to the ground. He has made me dwell in darkness like those who have long been dead. 1 Samuel 30:8. So David inquired of Yahweh, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. See, this is not just a following along. You're chasing after. This is attacking. Genesis 14:15. Then he, Abraham, divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. So, this goodness and mercy, it's going to track you down, chasing after you, pursuing you. Okay, it's not just following along. How cool is that? Thank you, God, for radafing me with your Tov v'chesed. Okay, next. All the days of my life, all is the word kol. I point that out because it shows up a lot. Kol. And just a little reminder, I think we covered this a long time ago. The word kalev is kol, all, and lev is heart. Kalev, all heart. Kalev is the Hebrew word for dog. And if you've ever known a dog is all heart. All the days of my life. The word for day is yom. And if you want to make it plural, it's yami. It's yud, mem, yud. Okay? Of my life. Life is chai. Chaim. Remember, God breathed chaim, life, into Adam's nostrils. Okay? And chaim is plural. Whenever he breathed into Adam's nostrils, he breathed chaim, plural. Cha here is singular. Okay? And you put chaya, this is, again, the yod on the end, my life. This is cool, huh? You're reading some Hebrew. And I will dwell in the house, babet. The first bet acts as a prefix in, and then there's the word bet, house, babet. All the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever. The way he's using forever here is yamim is days, and laoreka. Laoreka is length. So laoreka yamim is the length of days, length being forever, number of days. Okay, so now we've gone through and picked out all the key words, okay, at least the words that I know, okay. So take a little breakage here. Today we have pear nectar. No water, no sugar added. You'd be surprised how many emails I get, people complaining about what I drink. Anyway. Okay. Let's look at another concept related to this chapter. In the Bible, there are 7 redemptive names of God. Okay? He has his main name. His name is Yahweh, right? Yud-Heh, Vav-Heh. But he adds extra words to that depending on the purpose of who's calling him. Here are all 7. Okay? Yahweh Ra'ah, Yahweh Yireh, Yahweh Shalom, Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh Sidkenu, Yahweh Shammah, and Yahweh Nisi. And here are their meanings, and here are the people who use those names to call on him. Well, let's look at all 7. The first one is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Well, that's Yahweh Roi, right? There it is, the Lord my shepherd. It's in the verse, it's in the first verse. And let's go to the second one. We also have, the Lord is my shepherd. It says, I shall not want. Well, I shall not want, I can think of Yahweh Yireh, the Lord our provider. He provides for us. We do not want. We are without want. And where does that word come from? Back in Genesis 22:14, when Abraham takes Isaac up to the mountain to sacrifice him, and a ram is provided with his head in the thorns, and he doesn't sacrifice Isaac. Instead, the Lord provided a ram with his head caught in the thorns. And Abraham named that place Yahweh Yireh, the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. So it's kind of cool that David took that name that Abraham called God, and it's referenced in Psalm 23. He makes me lie down in green pastures, grass pastures. He leads me beside still waters. This is verse 2. And this I can think of is Yahweh Shalom, the Lord our peace. This was referenced back in Judges 6:24 with the story of Gideon. Then Gideon built an altar there to Yahweh and named it Yahweh Shalom. The Lord is peace. And what a nice picture that we're lying down in grass pastures beside quiet waters. I see a picture of Yahweh Shalom there. Okay, verse 3. It says, He restores my soul. He guides me in the circles of righteousness for the sake of His name. Okay, He's restoring my soul. I think of Yahweh Rapha, the Lord our healer. He's restoring our soul, our body, our spirit, our soul. I love it. This one's referenced back in Exodus 15:26. And he said, if you will listen carefully to the voice of the Yahweh Elohim and do what is right in His sight and listen to His commandments and keep all His statutes, I will put none of these diseases on you, which I have put on the Egyptians. For I, Yahweh, am your healer. Yahweh Rapha. This is God telling the Jews this. What a nice picture, right? Restoring my soul, Yahweh Rapha. By the way, if you are ill, or you have somebody who is ill, and you want to pray for their healing, may I suggest beginning your prayer, Yahweh Rapha. First of all, it will shock Him to hear you calling on His healing name. He will hear you no matter what you call Him, okay? But Yahweh Rapha, that's a good name to call if you're calling on healing. Yahweh Rapha. The word, by the way, Raphael. You've heard this name, someone's name. El at the end is God. Rapha is healer. Raphael is the Lord our healer. God our healer. Okay, He guides me in the paths of righteousness. He guides me in the circles of righteousness for the sake of His name. Okay, this is an easy one. Yahweh Tzidkenu, the Lord our righteousness. There's the Anu at the end of Tzidkenu. Anu is our suffix. And there's that Sadiq. Okay? This one is referenced in Jeremiah 33:16. In those days Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. And this is the name by which it will be called, Yahweh Tzidkenu, the Lord our righteousness. Isn't this cool? David has hidden all 7 of his redemptive names in type in this 6 verses. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. This is verse 4 of Psalm 23. And this one, this reminds me of Yahweh Shammah. The Lord is there. And this comes from Ezekiel 48:35. And what a great name to call here, right? You are with me. The Lord is there. Where is He? He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. If you need Him, He's there. If you don't need Him, He's there. Try to hide from Him. He's there. Ezekiel 48:35, it says, the city shall be 18,000 cubits all around, and the name of the city from that day shall be Yahweh Shammah. The Lord is there. Psalm 23:5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This one, okay, He's preparing a table in the presence of my enemies. Wow. You know, my enemies, I'm going to go to battle with these people. And He is out in front preparing a table for me in the presence of my enemies. He's out front. He's the Yahweh Nisi, the Lord our banner. He's the one who goes first. Remember when they marched around Jericho? It was the Ark of the Covenant that went first, and the priests. You know, then they had the choirs, and then they had the men and the women and the children. I think the soldiers were last. Yahweh Nisi, let God, our banner, go forth up front. We can reference this back in Exodus 17:15. It says, and Moses built an altar and named it Yahweh Nisi. The Lord is my banner. Nice. So that's kind of clever. We kind of miss that one maybe when we're reading in English and we don't put those two and two together. Here's another clever thing that it's in Psalm 23. You know, this word for God is Elohim, right? It's an Aleph, head of the ox, strength, God's letter. Lamed is the shepherd's crook. Just those first two, Aleph, Lamed. The strong shepherd. What a beautiful picture of him, the strong shepherd, El. Hey is behold, something is going to be revealed. Yod is hand. Mem is water. So you have the strong shepherd who reveals his hand on the waters. This is God's power title. It's not his name, it's his title. This is the one we see, Bereshit bara Elohim. In beginning God created. God, the power title, he's creating the heavens and the earth, right? He's the strong shepherd who reveals his hand on the waters. He controls the seas. Got it? So, if we take those letters for Elohim, and we know Aleph is the Lord, right? That's God, the Lord. The Lord, the Aleph, is my Lamed. Lamed is shepherd, crook. The Aleph is my Lamed. I shall not. Hey, behold, revelations, behold, blessings are coming. I shall not want. He Yod. Yod is hand. He leads me. Besides still Mem. Mem is water. How cool is this? He's woven his title, his power title. The Aleph is my Lamed, I shall not. Hey, he Yod me beside still Mem. Psalm 23, he's got that woven into there. Very beautiful. By the way, that Elohim reminds me of the threeness of God, this complex unity. Okay, we've talked about that in other videos. Just Elohim is a plural word, and it's in Yud Mem. So right there, it's kind of hinting at his complex unity. And to have a triangle, I've shown you this before, you need 3 of something. If you want a bigger triangle, 6 or 10 or 15, you just add an extra row to each one, 21, 28. These are all perfect triangle numbers, 36, 45, 55. Here is that title, Elohim. I put in the gematrias. If you take the first 3 letters of Elohim, the Yud is 1, Lamed 30, Hey is 5, adds up to 36, a perfect triangle number. If you take the second, third, and fourth letters, it's 30, Lamed, Hey 5, Yod 10, adds up to 45, a perfect triangle number. If you take the last 3 letters of Elohim, Hey is 5, Yod is 10, Mem is 40, adds up to 55, a perfect triangle number. Wow, there's a complex unityness hidden there. And you can continue with perfect triangle numbers just by adding the first 10 digits, 1 through 10, add up to 55, which is a perfect triangle number. And you can keep adding. If you add 11, 66 is a perfect triangle number. 78, 91, 105 is the 14th triangle number. Keep that in mind. 105 is the 14th triangle number. Keep that in mind. The 15th is 120. 136. The 17th triangle number is 153. We remember that from the number of fish in John 21. We've got to do a whole video on that someday. It's really cool. So these are all perfect triangle numbers. So why am I telling you all this? Well, there is a threeness, a triangleness, a complex unityness that is woven into Psalm 23, and I don't think David consciously did it. It's too complicated for him to sit down and write these 6 verses and weave all of this math that you're about to see into it. So here are the 6 verses in Hebrew. I'm going to just justify them over here to the right. Okay, and we're not going to do the title, the Mizmor LaDavid. So when I put them all on the right hand side, I'm going to highlight the first word of each one. There are 6 verses, which means there are 6 first words. Yeah, if there's 6 verses, the first word of each verse, there are 6 first words. And 6 is a perfect triangle number. So that's kind of clever that the number of verses and the number of first words is a perfect triangle number. Yawn, you say. Okay, let's continue. The number of letters in the first words. Okay, well there are the 6 first words in Hebrew, and you can add up the number of letters. There's 21. 21, by the way, is a perfect triangle number. So the number of first word letters forms a perfect triangle. Still yawning? Let's go on. Here are the number of words. The first verse has 4 words. Then the second and third have 7 each. The fourth has 15. The fifth has 10. The sixth has 12. There's 55 total words in Psalm 23. 55 is a perfect triangle number. So I can put all the words and it forms a perfect triangle. Very clever. Okay, now let's look at the total number of letters. The first verse has 13. The second and third have 30 each. The fourth has 53. The fifth has 39. The sixth has 45 letters for a total number of 210 letters. Guess what? Oh, 210, by the way, is 3 times 7, 21, times 3 plus 7. 3 plus 7 is 10. 21 times 10, 210. 210 is a perfect triangle number. So the number of letters in Psalm 23 forms a perfect triangle. And there they are. How clever is that? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Just amazing, amazing that God could have David write these 6 little verses and weave all of this math into it. To God be the glory, to God be the honor, to God be the praise, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye. All right, bonus. I know I already told you it was going to be a bonus, so wait. There's a bonus. Remember I told you at the beginning that David's name adds up to 14. Okay? And then I told you midstream here that the 14th triangle number has 105 dots. Okay, there are 105 whatever. All right, so what are we going to do with that? Well, if I take the total gematria of Psalm 23, so every letter I'm going to add up, it comes to 13,440. Boom. Wow. Huge number. Okay? So what is famous about 13,440? Well, you can divide it. It's 105 times 128. Well, 105, remember, is the 14th triangle number. David's name is the Psalm of David. David's name is 14. 14th triangle number is 105. 105 times 128 will give you 13,440. So you can put in 128 105 times, forming a perfect triangle again. A perfect triangle. How clever is that? Okay? So that's the total gematria of Psalm 23. And by the way, 128 is 2 to the 7th power. So 2 to the 7th, 2 to the 7th, 2 to the 7th, 2 to the 7th, 105 times. That gives you the total gematria of Psalm 23. There's your bonus. I hope you liked it. God bless. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.